Today's camera is the Olympus PEN EE-3. This is such a famous camera that it probably doesn't need much of an introduction. But these days, there may not be many people who actually load a roll of film into one and use it as a film camera anymore. Released in 1973, the PEN EE-3 was a hugely popular half-frame film camera that didn't require any batteries. A half-frame camera takes pictures using only half the area of a normal 35mm film frame. That means a 24 exposure roll can give you 48 photos, which makes it a very wallet-friendly camera. Another reason it became so popular is its simplicity. The focus is fixed, and the camera automatically adjusts the exposure using the aperture, so all you have to do is load the film and press the shutter button. The Olympus PEN series was a huge success, with more than 17 million units sold worldwide. There was a time when you could easily find them in junk shops here in Japan, but recently they seem to have become a little harder to find. This one was broken, but I was lucky enough to buy it for only 500 yen. Now, let's start taking it apart. Actually, disassembling this camera isn't that difficult. If I were repairing it as a film camera, I would have to be much more careful when removing each screw and keep track of exactly where every screw came from. But my final goal is not to repair this camera as a film camera. My goal is to take the lens from this camera and mount it on my Sony A7 III to take photographs. So basically, by simply removing the screws that are visible, I can reach the lens assembly. However, once the lens section comes off, I think it's a good idea to become a little more careful. It's like driving through a neighborhood where many children are playing. You naturally slow down because someone might suddenly run into the road. In the same way, I slow down my work and pay more attention than before. As I take this camera apart, I realize how carefully it was designed to make photography simple and easy. The mechanism is very precise, yet everything is organized in such a simple way. I think it really shows the brilliance of the engineering from that time. This camera was designed by Yoshihisa Mitani, the genius behind many famous cameras, including the OM series. He joined Olympus and created the half-frame pen camera when he was only 24 years old. Mitani is a very well-known figure in the world of cameras, so I think you will enjoy learning more about him. Anyway, because the structure is so simple, you can reach the lens section without needing any large or specialized tools. So, if you have a broken Olympus PEN, you might want to try repairing it yourself. For this project, I decided to use the same parts that I made earlier for the Canon A7 III. I thought it would be more efficient to combine the newly designed Olympus PEN parts with those existing parts. The process is simple. First, I attach the lens section to the Olympus PEN part, and then fit it into the Canon A7 part. With this method, I don't need to print new parts every time I adjust the focus, which makes the whole process much easier. I attached the lens to the part using epoxy adhesive. And this spring you can see here has a special purpose. I installed a small screw in the part to hold the spring in place, and it constantly applies tension to the aperture lever of the lens. Thanks to this mechanism, the aperture can be adjusted from f/3.5 all the way to f/22. All that's left to do is combine this unit with the Canon A7 part, and it will be ready to use on my Sony camera. Now, it's time for the test shots. As usual, I will shoot the test chart wide open and at f/8. However, this time it was difficult to set the exact distance of 1 meter. So, I took these shots from a distance of 1.2 meters. I hope you can forgive me for that. This lens was originally designed for a half-frame camera, but this time I am shooting in full-frame mode. In full-frame mode, this lens works as a 28mm f/3.5 lens. Of course, there is vignetting around the edges, and the resolution drops toward the corners. But I think that is part of the character and charm of this lens. Finally, let's take a look at the magnified images. Even though this is such a small lens, it performs very well. You can clearly see that the image becomes softer as you move toward the edges. Next, these are the images taken at f/8. I think you can clearly see that the image has become much sharper. Even when magnified, it is noticeably sharper than the images shot wide open, and the image quality near the edges has improved significantly. I think the results are excellent. This time, I recorded the backlight test as a video. I tested both wide open and at f/8, so it may actually be easier to understand than looking at still photos. I think this is something that each person may feel differently about, so I hope you will watch it and decide for yourself. From here, I will show you some real-world photos taken with this lens. These scenes were photographed both wide open and at f/8. The focus distance was fixed at 1.2 meters, and the white balance was set to auto. The ISO sensitivity was adjusted appropriately for each shot. Adjusting ISO sensitivity was not something that could be easily done in the film era, so this is one of the advantages of digital photography. Also, this time I shot everything in full-frame mode, so I hope you enjoy seeing what this little half-frame lens can do on a full-frame camera. And if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel.